What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. It's the TART Live Show, and we're having an awesome guest with us to join us here in a few minutes. And I'm really looking forward to it because we got to meet via TikTok, and we'll spend a few seconds talking about that once we bring him on. But in the meantime, I have my friend, the trolley one, just Jeff. How are you, man?
I'm getting ready to have a day off, and
yeah, it's Thanksgiving, and then you and I know the next day, us retail people, it is mayhem.
Except this year, it's not really, because you can't really go shopping. And for those of you watching, don't go shop on Friday. Just buy it online and have it shipped to you. You can support your favorite retailer by purchasing it online and not going into the store. We would all appreciate that. And wear a mask when you're in public. Just wear a mask. Don't ask questions. Don't complain about it. If the store wants you to wear a mask, just put a mask on. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Relax. There's been much worse persecution against the human race than wearing a mask.
Just wear the mask. And don't spout your conspiracy theory when you want to talk. Just don't shop there. Absolutely. Hobby Lobby is open, and they'll accept you with open arms. And then you can eat at Chick-fil-A.
And then you can eat Chick-fil-A.
Jeff, what's going on with the website, man?
The website, which I have here behind me tonight as illustrative purposes, because I want people to go search it up. TART.live. There you can see our merchandise. We can see the upcoming schedule. You can see all of our links. You can get access to the Discord. We have a helpline now, so if you're just looking to talk with somebody and get some help, links to not only the Discord, but also other partner sites and other resources that you may need. So check it out, TART.live, and that will get you into the link tree and everything else that's there. So you only have to remember TART.live. It's at the bottom right of the screen.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. And I have received a few messages, and I won't spend a bunch of time on this. I've had people ask me about the hats, the Skeptic hat, the Logic hat, a shirt or two that I've been wearing. And we do have an announcement coming, and I'll give a little plug here because we're actually going to have a full announcement, and we'll have some kind of like some little commercials, so to speak. But we're starting a partnership with an online store. Tomorrow's Black Friday, in 2 days Black Friday, an online store, and it's secularshop.com. Go buy all your I almost said secularshop.com. Go buy all your secular gear there, and they do. It's badass. There's a lot of corny shit out there. Their stuff is awesome. And they even sent me one for my little 4-year-old with a little spaghetti monster on there. I thought it was awesome. But the last thing, Jeff, we started something new about a week or so ago. You know what I'm talking about?
The call-in show.
The call-in show.
Yeah, it's been pretty sweet. You got a little spicy last night with J Mike on, getting trolled. I knew something. My troll dollar was up. I was saying in the private chat, like, "Hey, something's not right. Like, something's going on." But I didn't go with my gut.
If you go back and look at the live chat, because I do have evidence to support this claim. I looked at Tia when my wife, when it started, I was like, hold on. I know this voice. And like, I got closer to the TV because we were watching on our TV.
Uh-huh.
And about a quarter to halfway through the call, I was like, yeah, I don't think I know it. Like at first I was like,
this just sounds like, I was a little quiet, like during that one, because I was like, I'm not too sure about this. I do get occasional calls with people like that, or similar, but not that like ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a private transition, not one that's usually made publicly.
Yeah. He went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Oh yeah.
But it was awesome because Jeff, J Mike and myself, and I wasn't even on screen. We got the shit trolled out of us on that. And it ended up being our friend, Mr. Smalley, David Smalley. So thanks, Smalley. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But you know what? I am proud of Jeff and J Mike, because if it were real and it wasn't a troll job, I will say I was very proud on how Jeff and J Mike handled it, because they were very empathetic and compassionate, and tried to give the guy what he needed to continue that process. And I thought that was a great example of what we do at TART, and how we really feel about that process in a
Kill him with
process.
kindness.
Yeah, that was awesome. And so we've had a few shows in there. A couple of them have been serious points, and other points have been wild and fun, and that's our style. Anyway, and I know the first one that I did with Pasta. I feel like I was very fortunate to get two callers that really fit my communication style and my dialogue style, and we were able to do that, and we had great conversations, and very productive, and I thought very efficient calls, and the one guy at the end, he said, "Man, I had a lot of fun. Thanks for letting me talk," which to me, when I hear that, a Christian calling into an atheist show say that, what I hear is, I'm used to not being able to talk when I talk to atheists, and I'm not saying that's true. I'm just that's what that sounded like. So I thought that was a really cool, really cool thing to hear from one of our callers, and especially that being on our first show. So, Jeff, any of your calls or anything stand out before we get our guest on here?
Definitely. The justification of slavery seems to be something that's rampant within the Christian community, at least when I ask. So, yeah, that's always eye-opening, I guess. How far they'll go to justify it. It's like they really need it.
Yeah, that's one that to this day baffles my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when they're like, I don't justify slavery, but here's what you need to know. And then they go into justifying slavery. It's like, well, I don't think that's right. However, within the context of the time, indentured servitude, because it's debt slavery, they just go into it. It's like, it's just not good. It's just not a good idea. It's not a good practice. If it was a good practice, we'd probably still be using it.
Oh, for sure. And in any conversation or any argument, when you make your statement and then followed up with but or however, you just erased everything you just said. Because now we're actually going to get to the truth because you gave your precursor,
Yeah.
But if you guys haven't checked out a live show, a live show, this is a live show, a TART live call-in show. We're going to be having more and more of those, and we're still working out the details and getting the bugs out, so be patient with us. But it's growing as far as popularity and everything. We're just trying to figure out what style is best, not just for us, but for our viewers as well. So before we get to the guest, I do want to make sure that we talk about a few people in the chat. So Charlie Woodchips, Pavel D, Aiden Gage, Shawn Alexander, Mikey B, what I call him, Mike Burgundy, Mediocre Theologian, the one and only Mrs. Oz. Everybody pause. Okay. Twice Baked, Sparty's here. What's up, Sparty? And then Neil, the 604 Atheist, and Ian Davenport. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate it. And before we introduce the guest of the evening, I do want to say, in case I forget, because I have the memory of an ant, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy your time with your families tomorrow, and be safe. I know tonight and tomorrow are heavy drinking days, so drink all you want, have fun, get fucked up, but don't get behind the wheel of a vehicle, and get an Uber. Take care of each other, be safe, but enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and have all kinds of fun. So our guest for the evening, like I said, he and I met via TikTok. We had a great conversation there, and I invited him to come on the show and continue the conversation, or even kind of branch off and have new conversations in regards to God, Christianity, beliefs, faith, that sort of thing. So I'm going to welcome Shawn to the screen. Shawn, what's going on, my man?
Oh, hey.
What's up, buddy?
Nothing much.
How you feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get all that out of the way. So
yeah, I'll just shake it out.
Then shake it. Don't make me dance because it's fucking awful. But Shawn, like I just said, you and I met on TikTok, and before we get into that, and then beliefs and faith and all that, first, just whatever you're comfortable with, tell us about Shawn. We want to get to know Shawn a little bit.
I'm 25. I've pretty much been a Christian all my life, been raised a Christian. I'm starting college in spring. I mean, there's not much else about me. I love to write. I love to draw. I'm currently trying to write like a comic book right now. I've been spending a lot of time doing that. So I bought the iPad.
Awesome. So comic books, what, anything else that you like, anything else you enjoy writing, like poetry, music, anything else?
I mostly write stories. Like I have several books I'm working on right now
Okay.
in pretty much every genre. And I only have like one chapter done of each of them. I just kind of keep flip-flopping back and forth.
Awesome. I myself enjoy writing. Mine's more, well, I love writing music, but I also have a secret part of my writing. I love poetry,
Right.
and I love to read and I love to write, and that's probably something that even most of our viewers and my teammates just learned about me tonight. But that's something I've always enjoyed, and pouring out, and putting pen to paper is very therapeutic for me. And helps me even process, some of the things that's bounced around this crazy brain of mine. The next part, then, thank you for sharing that, and we'll get to the grown up Christian and all that here a little later.
Right,
But
right.
you and I met on TikTok. So before we talk about that, how long you've been on TikTok, and why did you download the app?
I think a year, and just to when I'm bored, just flip through and laugh at stuff, basically.
So you just you're just laughing at me? Is that what you just said?
Maybe.
No, I think that's actually why I originally downloaded it. It was the same thing, to get on there and laugh at dumb people doing dumb things. I think we're all pretty much entertained at what's that TV show, like the stupid criminals. Stupid criminals do stupid things, or whatever. Of course, you've been on there about a year, and so I posted a Seth Andrews video, and I think it was the one that, if I'm
It was
recalling
like
correctly,
comparing what Christians say about God to like an abusive relationship or something like that.
right, and that's what got our conversation started. And it was, it wasn't a super long conversation, but it was long enough where I was like, what, I think I'd enjoy actually having a conversation with this person instead of just trading 2-line messages.
Right.
And going back and forth. So here we are. So just real quick on that video, and just so the viewers and listeners know exactly, so we have context what we're talking about. So Seth Andrews did he does a lot of public engagements, speaking engagements, and there's one part of one of his talks or speeches where he compares God, the Bible God, to being in a relationship with him, to being in a relationship with an abusive spouse or partner. And for me, in my experience in religion and Christianity, I can completely understand what he's saying when he says that, and agree with it. Doesn't mean everybody else does. Just real quick, Shawn, when you saw that video and you heard it, I don't know how many times you did listen to what he was actually saying, and lining it up with the claims of an abused spouse or partner with some of the things that I guess God would attribute to our relationship with him biblically. What was the first thing that jumped out at you when you heard that made you comment on that?
Well, like, I guess it was like, I don't remember the video too well, but like the first one, it was like, oh man, if I remember the video, that was like a few weeks ago. It was pretty much all the opposite of what I have been taught and what I've experienced with a relationship with God. Had some, like, it was like, I think the first one was like, I am too weak and he is so strong or something like that. And it's like, and it was like comparing like, I think he said something about like it was like him, like God's trying to knock you down, but like in like what I've learned, it's not I am so weak and he is so strong. It's, when I am weak, I'm not always weak, but when I am weak, he gives me strength. And another one was like, I think it was something about intelligence. It's like I'm so stupid and he's so smart or something. It's like, no, when I'm lacking mentally, he gives me knowledge and wisdom. That's basically what I've grown up with. Um, is completely the opposite of an abusive relationship. It's all about him supporting us, when we struggle. That's how I was raised. Is God will support you when you struggle unconditionally.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And I'm sure that we will get into that later, that part of it.
Right, right.
But before we start to jump into any questions or anything, Shawn, obviously you and I have talked, so I know this. But for the viewers, what is your current religious view, and maybe the sect or the brand of Christianity that you would fall underneath?
The brand of Christianity, standard Christianity, maybe scientific Christianity or something like that. I don't
Well,
really put a
what
brand on it.
Well, what I mean, and I apologize if I'm not being clear, because I'm trying to say it and be respectful when I say it. Would you consider yourself to be Baptist, evangelical, Protestant?
I think
Is
I think
there
I'm
a particular?
Protestant. I think I'm Protestant. That sounds familiar.
Okay, all right, yeah. And if I was if I made it fuzzy there, that's my bad. So I want to go back to something you said up top when you first came on the screen, and you said that you've 25 years old and you've grown up in church. So
Yes.
so it's what you've been surrounded by for the bulk of your days here on the earth. So do you remember a time when you said, okay, I believe this to be true. I believe that this God exists. Do you remember a moment like that?
So I've always accepted the existence of God, but I probably didn't cement my I actually believe until late teens, early adults, just when I had the full time to, think and process everything as I was going through life, basically, I'd say.
Okay. So being born, because I'll speak for me. I was born into it. My mom was full-time ministry. That's what she did. So my earliest childhood memories are in church, around church, doing church things. So I'm very familiar with that. And I always like to open up with that question when I talk to somebody, that has, really been there and surrounded by that, from their earliest memories. So I understand what you're saying, but even let's say into teenage years, maybe early adulthood, do you remember a time that you ever stopped and critically went through, the Bible and different studies to ask, okay, am I believing this because this is what I've been surrounded by, or am I believing this because this is truth? Was there ever a moment like that for you?
Kinda. I haven't actually read all of the Bible. I haven't read the second half. I read the First Testament all the way through, and I've been slowly working on the second half. It's a long read and it's kind of boring. But
I appreciate your
probably
honesty.
right. I'd probably say not middle school, maybe high school. When I got real into science, and so I was like, asking all the questions about the universe, asking all the questions about God, and just kind of figuring it out, like going through, like I got, like I went, like for science, I researched string theory. I researched, because like when I learned about dinosaurs, I think we learned that like early high school, maybe late middle school kind of deal. And I was like, well, how does this happen if the Bible says this? And so I went through all of it and I did research on both ends. And then like towards the end of it, I decided that it made sense to me that well, I'll say if, but God existing and everything, how it works. And then I've had plenty of like experience in my life with God, and prayers being answered, specific prayers, not like the please God let me drive home safely kind of deal. Like I'm talking when you pray in earnest and the only variables are God existing or God saying yes or no. That's those I've had plenty of those experiences where prayers have been answered like that. So it kind of cements it that way.
Okay.
And I can give examples if you want.
Yeah, let's do come back to that in a second. But before we do, excuse me, I want to make sure that we that we have everything's clear, because when we start getting into prayer and all that, we need to make sure that everything before this, as far as belief, truth claims, faith, all of those things are
Right.
we have all those defined and laid out first. So well, I'll ask, because I don't want to misrepresent you. Do you believe that God exists?
Yes.
Okay. And if I gave you a scale of 1 to 100, 1 being he absolutely does not exist, 100 being it's emphatic, like he exists, where would you, as far as your confidence level that God exists, where would you fall on
I'd
that?
probably say about like 99%. There's always room for like a little bit of doubt. But as far as my beliefs, about 99%. And then of course, like what he's actually the the God that sits above all gods, that's another 99% at that point.
Okay. And what is it that is, because I would be at maybe a 1.
Right.
So
Like I
what
saw in one of your videos, you said like the only way to convince you would be like if God came and shook your hand, which would be
or
funny if like you like go into the afterlife, like if God's real, he just like walks up and be like, hey, how's it going? Kind of deal.
or I've also said he can sit on my lap. So at a 99, that's a very high number.
Yeah.
That's tipping the scale all the way to where we're a percent away from 100, right? Obviously. What has got you to 99?
Just to, like I was saying, like I've experienced like what I would call miracles and prayers being answered and stuff like that, just to kind of cement it, I guess.
Okay, so this is where we can kind of dig into what you're talking about. So when you say miracles, and you say answers to prayers, give us some examples of what you mean by that.
So I can give you a few. So I had a friend as a child. This was as a child. So it's possible that my memory isn't remembering correctly. Like I'll just put that out there. But this is what I remember. I had a friend. I was friends for him for about 3 years. He was hard of hearing in his left ear. We prayed for him and we laid his hands on his ear. And after we said amen, basically, his ear was healed. I was friends for him for another 2 years. And I don't know what happened to him after that. It kind of moved away. I've had, so prayers that I'm talking about, like prayers that normally, like you could consider them coincidences, but like, so like one time at church camp, I was praying. I was like, hey, God, show me something cool. As soon as I said amen, the door bust open. A bird flew in, circled the room, and disappeared into the light fixture. It's pretty cool. It kind of fit the definition of something cool. Another time at church camp, they were praying, and there was a light. We were on boathouses, and there was lightning striking the water. Everyone was praying for safety. This wasn't my prayer, but the youth pastor prayed. He's like, hey, that's boring. God, make something happen, but nobody gets hurt. So as soon as he finished his prayer, all the spikes that held the boathouses in popped out. So all the youth pastors had to run around with giant metal spikes trying to put them in the ground while lightning was striking around. My dad was sick for about 8 years. And one day, New Year's, like this story ends sad, but just for this. But one day, New Year's, he completely shut down. He had a brain tumor, and so we knew he was going to die within the next 2 weeks, and he was in a lot of pain. So my mom prayed. She said, "If this is his time to go, make it painless and just take him." As soon as she finished her prayer, he let out a his body completely was at peace. He was no longer in pain. He let out a big sigh and his heart stopped. So, that's something. And then at that point, I kind of just lost the fear of death and everything. 2 years ago, I had lost my job due to personal reasons. And I had another job set up, but then they called me and they're like, hey, we can't give you this job for another month. And I wasn't going to be able to afford my mortgage. So I was like, all right, God, I need a job right now. I'm not good with signs or anything. So just have them call me and give me a job. 30 minutes later, I got a phone call and I got a job. And then at the beginning of summer of this year, I had prayed because I'm ready to get married. I'm 25. I had prayed. I was like, all right, God, I need help dating because, dating right now sucks. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me to my future wife. And I didn't tell anyone about this prayer. So then in the middle of summer, I asked to do it by the end of summer. So in the middle of summer, my entire family, without me being there, decided, let's all move down to central Idaho or southern Idaho. And at the end of southern, I and my mom moved down to southern Idaho, and then my sister came down. And then tomorrow I'm actually flying up to grab my other sister, and she's moving down here as well. So those are some of the examples I have.
Okay. And first of all, before we continue because I always want to, again, make sure we're always 100% respectful. Right. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. No,
that was like 11 years ago.
Well, it's still still your dad, So I just want to make sure before I say anything that that I'm respectful and say that, because I never want it to appear to you or anybody that will watch our show that I'm not sympathetic or wanting to connect on that level and be empathetic to that situation regardless, because we definitely want to do that. Now, a few things that stand out to me as you're going through those. So first and foremost, there are, people can have personal experiences, and it doesn't matter if it's Jeff, Oz, anybody else on the crew. We can't take personal experiences from anybody. That's what it is. But just because you experience something or you believe something to be true, it definitely does not therefore make it true. There has to be so there has to be some way to confirm the claims that are made, and really what happened a lot with what you're saying, even though I respect I respect the personal experience. There was a lot of confirmation bias in there. Are you familiar with that term?
No, you can explain it to me.
Okay, so it's and I pulled it up just to make sure I'm dead on in my definition. Tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. So this is what I say a lot when I do talk to theists of whatever religion, is sometimes we want. We do believe something, and we pray or we believe, and if something does happen, we just chalk it up as, well, that must have been God. When there's a lot of in a lot of cases, there's a scientific explanation, there's a medical explanation. There's several different ways that could have or could not have happened, depending on the prayer. So. It's funny because just the last 2 days I've spent talking to a couple people about prayer and does prayer work. And my argument is first of all, prayer is effective. It's effective in the fact that, yes, it can help you feel better about a situation, but it is very much a psychological placebo, just like yoga, meditation, that kind of thing, because it triggers the same center of the brain that just makes you feel like you're grounded yourself. It gives you hope. It gives you security, and there's nothing wrong with those things. I'm actually a fan of meditation. I just don't believe in meditating or praying to, a supernatural person or thing. So those things are real. Now, does prayer work? If prayer worked, we wouldn't have children's hospitals and hospitals filled with kids dying from lung cancer, bone cancer, brain cancer, those kind of things. So
Well, I guess it really depends on because the variable for prayer, I guess there's two variables for prayer. If you think of it as an exciting experiment, the variable one, God existing or not, and the second variable is God saying yes or not. He has the ability to say no, because sometimes better stuff can happen, or maybe it's just he says no. I obviously I can't speak for God and the wisdom that we Christians say he has. And obviously I can't do that, but that is the variable, whether he says yes or no. He did. Right now the world is, according to my beliefs, the world is in chaos because mankind chose chaos. So God's like, all right, I'm going to step back. I'll kind of help everything kind of go towards good, but you guys just have at it. And then the promise is that he'll come back, and then he'll be like, all right, that's enough. It's time to wipe it clean and just be good. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, and actually, original sin was one of the first things that started to crumble my Christian world.
Right.
But
If
I'll leave
God
that.
knew they were going to do it, why did God let it happen? Kind of deal. Like I've gone through that. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll leave that alone, and maybe you and I could talk about that later. But I really want to stick to, like I told you beforehand, the belief,
Right.
the belief, faith, that kind of thing. Where, because I'll try to get 2 or 3 more questions in here, and I'll get Jeff in here so he can hang out with you for a minute. But how big of a part in your belief does faith play?
Ooh, good question. Um,
Take your time. You're good.
I don't know. Put it in probably. That's hard to say. Um, I'd say a good amount. Most of it, I contribute to. Most of my belief, I contribute to my experience, and then just logically thinking about the world. But I'd say faith has a small part of it. Because there's always, in actuality, if God exists, it's a 50-50. He either does exist or he doesn't exist. So
Absolutely.
So my experience and what I've gone through in life kind of tilts me more towards he does exist, and it makes sense to believe in him, and it makes sense to follow him, and then the rest of it is in faith.
Okay, so just for review, you and I are on the same page. Viewers on the same page. For you, it's personal experience, and what you've seen and heard and felt and all those things, and there's a percentage of it, whether it's a smaller percentage or not, that faith does play a part in your belief system. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
faith plays a part in everyone's life in some form or another.
Okay, and so then my question then to follow up on that would be, what is it today, current day? What is it that convinces you that your God exists? Why are you convinced or persuaded, as the Bible says, that God is real or exists?
Just like I said, I think prayer would be the biggest one. Because it's possible that all of my prayers are coincidence. But if you're running a science experiment, and the science experiment would say praying with conviction for a specific outcome, and the variables being either God exists or God saying no, and like 95% of prayers with conviction happen exactly the way you pray them, wouldn't you consider that plausible, more proof than not?
Personally, I would not either prayer. Well, there's a lot of things, but just for our conversation, prayer and faith are very they're not reliable pathways. And the reason I say this is, what if I told you a week or two, I talked to a Muslim that said the same thing that you're saying right now about their God and their prayers and the
Well,
outcomes of
Muslims
their prayers.
technically believe in the same God. They're different in their Messiah. So Christians believe in Jesus, whereas Muslims believe in Muhammad.
Right. So that means, regardless of how you want to slice it or shake that out, their prayers would be pointed in different directions because
It would still
like
technically be pointed to the
the
same God,
Bible.
though, and him having the ability to answer. And okay, so a lot of Christians believe, like God is the one God, but it does say in the Bible that the pagan gods are real and they can answer prayers and do stuff. So I do believe that there are other divine, or not divine, I guess the Greek word is daemon, spiritual beings. You can see it in uh, like India when they pray to a bunch of different gods for a bunch of different things, and I don't doubt that their prayers, come true or not. So, like I said, most of my faith of God being the highest God above all gods, that's where more of my faith lies, rather than does he exist or not.
Say that last part again.
So when I was so I believe in God and I believe he is the being above other gods. That is where in my beliefs most of my faith resides, because I could be wrong. He could just be very popular amongst the other gods who are just as powerful, but my belief and that was mostly on faith that he is above other gods.
Okay, and let's say all these other gods are real for the conversation. Usually, I don't
Yeah.
concede that, but for this this conversation, I will. Then, if all these other gods are real, and you're basing um, the hope or the belief that your God is the God above all the other gods, is faith the reliable way to get there? Like, is that how you want to get to truth?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry.
Yeah. So is whether all the gods exist or they don't, and there's only one true God, is faith the reliable pathway to get you to truth, whether they all exist or just one exists?
So I don't know if this answers your questions, but I will always continue to ask questions on my faith, against my faith, toward my faith, in every aspect just to understand. But I have decided that, I want to follow God and follow the Christian path, because it makes like I don't know if you want me to go through the whole, science thing I went through on the email where I basically explained, the universe is basically made up of energy. Our bodies are made up of just tangled energy. Our consciousness is energy. There are multiple dimensions from one to who knows how many. So the fact that a consciousness could be out there with the ability to manipulate energy, like what we're doing right here, this isn't magic. This is manipulating energy from our dimension. So when people like that's one of the things and I'm confused on like atheists like, oh, God is magic, it's all supernatural. It's just a consciousness, a being manipulating energy. It's not, there's nothing really magical about it. He still, goes with the laws of physics and everything. Um Sorry, I went off on a tangent. Where were we at?
You're good. You're good.
Oh,
Well, and I'll say, when I read that email, I was like, and he sounds like an atheist, until you then wrapped it back around to a God claim, And what I'd say is, and obviously everybody can't see the email, so this is like you and I talking about a private conversation. But
right.
it's that, yes, we see the science, we know the science, and we can't make sense of it. We can't explain it. Therefore, God, that's God of the gaps. We don't just automatically plug in a God just because we can't explain it. We don't understand.
Yeah, obviously, but so I look at both. It's like, can this be done naturally? Yes. Could it also be done by a God? Yes. And it's a 50-50 shot. So logically, I choose Christianity because one, there's no benefit for me. This is just for me, not for you guys. There's no benefit in being atheist. I actively, whether it's coincidence or not, I have prayers answered actively. They are answered specifically and in the way that I asked actively. Two, like if there's really no like end win for an atheist. So like let's say afterlife. If you're a Christian, afterlife of heaven. If I'm wrong, then there's nothing. If you're an atheist, afterlife, nothing. If you're right, nothing. It's nothing either way. And then if you follow the pagan religions, it's reincarnation. Like because most of all the other religions out there are reincarnation, which pretty much you don't have to worship a god. You just don't have to be an asshole, and then you'll get a good reincarnation. So as a good Christian, I would get either heaven, death, if there's nothing there, in which case it wouldn't affect me anything, or a good reincarnation. So logically speaking, I would go towards Christianity because there's no benefit for atheism for me.
If someone is considering that there is an afterlife, then maybe I would give that credence. But we have no reason to believe there's an afterlife. There's no.
Well, let me ask you this. So, psychologically speaking, human beings don't have the ability to come up with ideas that they haven't experienced. So, where did the experience between our evolution from monkeys to now of the idea of an afterlife come from?
Well, first of all, it wasn't monkeys. It was a common ancestor. Make sure we get that right.
Common ancestor.
That's the only little thing on evolution that drives me nuts. But we're good. But that's to say that we can't and we haven't and we won't come up with anything that we haven't experienced. I would need, again, that's something I would need to see demonstrated, that nobody has ever had an idea that nobody else has ever seen or heard or anything like that. I don't know that. Like, to assert that as a fact is a
I'll
big.
assert it as an opinion. How about that?
There you go, and you can have an opinion on that, and that's fine. Everybody's got the right to an opinion,
right.
But we don't have. And I've done a lot of research on afterlife and the psychology and everything, and we don't, scientifically, we don't have a reason to believe that there is an afterlife. Just
right.
like before you were
not
born,
something you can really test. They have people who have died for a few seconds and come back and said something about it, but obviously that could just be a fever dream from their brain shutting off. So I completely understand where you're going with that, and I get it. Like, I am most of my decisions are based off of logic, and so I've looked at both sides and I've just decided, hey, this is where I want to stand.
So before I bring Jeff on here, because I want to get him on here, because I know he'll have some great follow-up questions, because he's a former believer as well. So I think it'll be great. But you where I have to challenge you and push back, because you said,
go for it.
You just said that that you approach things logically, or you make your decisions logically. However it was, you just stated that. But where I have to push back and ask you is when you say that, then when I asked you, why you believe, or what is it that convinces you to know that God is real or God exists, you went straight to personal experiences or prayer, which none of those can be. Like we can't demonstrate those. We can't test. There's no measuring stick. There's no barometer.
Well, sure, but
those
you
are
also
just,
can't prove the existence of a rainbow
on.
to a blind man. So
Hold on.
personal experience can be taken into account.
Well, if on a rainbow, sure, but now we're talking about a God. Now we're talking about an extraordinary claim that requires extraordinary evidence, and we say that we have this God that could send us to an eternal torment in a hell. When somebody, If you, but that's what I'm saying. Most people you talk to do. I'm not saying
Most
you
people
do,
do, but
that's
you know,
the threat they
that's
hold over.
mostly from Catholicism, and like there's been plenty of corruption in the Catholic Church. So it really, the relationship with God has to be found on your own more than from people. You gotta trust more. You gotta trust God more than you people. Sorry, you can go back to what you're saying.
Okay.
I
You're
don't know
good.
if I'm being
You're
rude.
good.
Like I said, this is my first live stream. I'm nervous. I'm just trying to get all my thoughts out there. I don't want to be
No,
rude. If I am, I'm apologize. I just
no, you're good, man. You're all the way good. And everybody in the chat, give Shawn a chat round of applause, because this is his first live stream and he's kicking ass so far. So we appreciate it. So what I was trying to drill down to there, like I said, I'll bring Jeff on it, and I love that you just brought up Catholicism, because that's what he grew up with, is that damnation and hell and and all that bullshit. But what I was pushing back on is
right.
it's not logic, like praying to a supernatural being that's never been proven, never been demonstrated, and then attributing results to a prayer that could be explained through science. Like there's so many ways these things could be explained. I don't see it as logical. So and respectfully, I need you to help me understand that, because I don't see that as logical. Help me understand that.
Right. Okay. What did you just say? I had something from my head. I don't think you just said. Well, probably the most reason you don't think it's logical is, like you said, what was that thing you were talking about where, you believe something because it fits with your belief or something like that?
Affirmation bias.
Affirmation bias, yeah. Like, it is completely possible that all of my experience is coincidence, but then it's completely possible that coincidence doesn't actually exist and it's all a divine being. So it really, it's a matter of perspective, I guess. Like, because I know 100% fact there are people that I can't convince of anything. Like you said in one of your lives, God would have to come down and shake your hand in order to believe you. Like, people are going to believe what they want to believe. Like, there are flat earthers out there. We have plenty of proof that the earth is not flat. You can go up to a high mountain with a telescope and see that the earth is not flat. But, people believe it and they don't accept evidence of it. It's like, that evidence isn't real. And, like an atheist, you don't accept that, my personal proofs or, testimonies of other people, you don't accept it as proof, which, you can. It could be proof. It could not be proof. It's just what you believe, and you're going to believe what you're going to believe.
Okay, fair enough. And I want to stop real quick and get my man just Jeff on here, and everybody that's in the chats. We appreciate you being here with us. And remember that super chat button's there, because we're going to start getting geared up for the Q&A. So if you have questions for Shawn, myself, the Weasley one, just Jeff, hit us up and let us know what questions you have. So Jeff, as soon as you're ready, man, you can bounce on here and take over.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Oz. I appreciate it. Helping me out, helping the little guy out. I appreciate that. But yeah, I've been taking some notes. Right. I got some notes, but I think, and some doodles, but notes mainly. And a lot of it seems to me that it centers around prayer for you. Like, that seems to be the prevailing reason for your belief.
Yeah, answers to prayer. The more specifically the answer than the prayer itself.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So I want to break it down a little bit and kind of summarize what we talked about, just so we're all on the same page. So,
right.
Very specific prayers were answered for you. Ones that you would deem,
and those are only like a short list. Like 90%, 95% of prayers I have prayed in earnest have been answered in a similar way. Not in a way that just I would see. Other people experience them too, and in different degrees of thing. And I've had a lot. So the possibility of it all being coincidence is possible, but in my opinion, it's unlikely.
Sure. So very specific prayers that you deem non-coincidental. You had the childhood friend that had the hearing problem, the church camp situation with the bird flying in, your father. But so why do you think that the God that you believe in would allow the bird to fly into the room, but in a situation where someone, let's say a child is dying of cancer, those prayers seem to fall on deaf ears?
I guess like I said, I can't speak for God, but sometimes bad stuff happens. Like, what was the situation? I don't want to say that. No, that would. I was gonna say, what was the situation with the bad child? Because whether no, I'm not gonna say that. Okay. So not all. I guess I'll go with this. Not all suffering is bad. You know, sometimes suffering happens, but either way, if you believe in God, we're only living about 120 years max. He gave us 120 years max on the earth. And then after that, it's paradise. So, if a baby gets a paper cut, it's the worst pain it's ever had. And it's what it goes through. But, after an eternity, or after even into adulthood, that baby's not going to remember a paper cut. So if, shit happens on, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, I'm sorry. If
Oh,
stuff
you can.
happens
That's
on,
fine.
if stuff happens on the earth, that's bad. One, it's not always, it's the result of the environment. The environment sucks right now, and mankind chose it to suck. If you believe in the Bible and you read the Bible, it's like God's like, hey, let's do it my way. Mankind's like, no, we're gonna do it our ways, and then bad stuff happened because mankind's stupid. And then God's like, all right, I'm gonna punish you a little bit, and then I'm gonna fix it a little bit, and then he's like, all right, we guys want to do it my way, and he's like, no, we're gonna do it our way. And he's like, okay, so it's just constantly that, and then eventually it says in the Bible, God, he's like, all right, you guys can do you, and I will just watch it happen, and I will decide the best route.
But why would he
So
interfere with you and giving you what you need at that time with the bird flying into the room to prove his existence, but not help like in cases of COVID? So for example, I think that everybody on this planet, regardless of their faith, has prayed for a healing of COVID. And up until this point, we've received nothing.
right. But does there
So,
need
I
to
mean,
be a
you can
healing
think
of
like
COVID?
there are
Does there
billions of
need
people
to be a
praying right
healing of COVID? Is there a better, can good be brought out of it, I guess, is the question. So let me go through the example with my dad, and this of course can all be taken as, coincidence and everything. So when my dad got sick, we moved away from our house. Because we moved away from our house, like I said, you can create this all as coincidence and stuff. But this is basically my story of a bad situation being good brought out of it. So we moved away from a house. I met my best friend, Jonathan Larson, and the town we were in was kind of one of those. If you didn't make it out, you basically became like a druggie. Um, so my dad got sick. We moved. I met my best friend, and then he got even worse. So we had to move to another town, a better town, so he could be closer to the hospital. Because we moved to that town, my sister met her husband, and she has 4 kids or whatever. And if we hadn't have moved to that town, we probably wouldn't have been in the place for her to meet her husband. Obviously, she could have met him other ways. Obviously, there could have been
or
a different
someone
guy
else?
for her, but you never know. And then my dad passed away, and we moved to another town, and that's where my other sister met her husband, and my brother met his wife, and I met my ex-wife. Um, because we moved to that other town, I was able to get my best friend, out of the crap town, and he says probably if I hadn't have been his friend, he probably wouldn't have turned out as well as he has now. And if I hadn't have moved to Kellogg to make friends with him in the first place, it's possible he could be on a different path. Obviously, it's not 100%. And then,
But do you
so I
think
met
that's
my.
like divine inspiration or divine working in your life that those things happened?
It's possible. Like I'm just saying,
But you
through
don't know.
bad situation. Yeah, no, obviously I don't know. I can't be 100%. You can never be really 100% on anything. That's why my belief is only 99. And, I'm just saying that to be high. But, in a bad situation, good stuff can come out of it. And you really don't know the bigger picture of what what constitutes as a good thing. Like I was saying before, not all suffering is bad. If, like, say a drug addict, like say you have a kid, I don't know where you're at. Let's say you have a kid and he becomes he becomes a drug addict, and you bail him out of the situation like every single time. You give him money and stuff. Eventually, for him to get better, he's going to need to suffer through rehab to get better.
But what would that have to do with like the situation where like we have a child dying of cancer and the prayers are going unanswered? What are you saying, that the child is going through the suffering for a better cause?
Maybe it's possible.
And then
I mean,
the other thing, you were talking about personal proof. I want to kind of change gears to your personal proof.
Okay.
So if I'm listening to your personal proof with open ears,
Right.
and
my personal proof is not trying to convince anyone of everything. It's just something that I've experienced and something that I've went through.
but that's what you're basing your belief on, is your experience. Right. So if you base your belief off of your experience, right? Everybody bases their belief off their experience. They all have a different answer for those things. So, so if that's the case, then I can't use your personal experience to understand belief. I can't use, as much as I can't use your neighbor's experience or my experience to get answers to those things. The prayer thing, I think, is pretty easy. Anybody that has any experience with the way we play these mental games of the confirmation bias would understand that. I know there are probably plenty of times in which you ask for something and you don't get it, and you can write that off as, well, the situation, like the suffering, maybe is better for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to get that. Maybe it's a different path. So it's a win-win situation.
I don't like pray in every instance. So like,
sure,
it's only when I'm like, when I like I don't actually, like, since high school, I didn't actively go to church. I didn't actively pray. I've only ever really, like, well, in the beginning I prayed a lot, and then through that middle I didn't pray, and then.
Well, also you said
I would only really.
There are other gods that have power to answer prayers. So how do you know that your prayers are being answered by the top dog versus someone else deceiving you?
Well, why? I guess that's the problem with answering questions like that is, like, I can't talk for beings of higher power. So, like, I guess what would be the benefit? What would be the benefit of another god to deceive me when I don't worship the god that's deceiving me? What would be its benefit?
To obviously pull you away from the one true God.
Just like is it in this situation, Yahweh wouldn't be the one true God, correct? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying whether or not. I'm just saying
in this scenario. So you said,
how would you know that you're not?
So in this scenario specifically, you would say that Yahweh was not the one true God answering my prayers in.
He could be he would not. I don't believe in the pantheism thing or monotheism, but it seems to me like you have a pantheistic view where there are multiple gods that have power.
Well, it says it, like, it even says it in the Bible that there is.
Okay, so if there are multiple
in the story of Babylon, God's council decided, hey, we want to rule humans too, so he, like, separated them into, like, the different regions, like, and then later in the Bible, in the I don't remember who it was, but, like, he was stopped by the Prince of Persia and the kings of Persia, and only the Archangel Gabriel or whatever was able to be like, hey, fuck off, kind of deal.
But,
so,
if those other beings are able to answer your prayers, how do you know that it's not them, or it's not the one true God, or that maybe it's none of the above and it's a different God?
What would be the benefit, I guess, of them? Because I don't do anything special. I don't sacrifice a chicken for my prayers. I pray and believe in Yahweh. I pray directly to him and believe in him. What would be the benefit of them answering my prayers, I guess.
Well, let's say it's Satan and he's trying to throw you off
How?
by answering your prayers to make you think that that's true.
To make me think what's true.
That there's, like, let's say that this Christian God is not the one true God. Let's say it's a Hindu God or some other God that maybe we don't even know about. And you're being deceived by a being to keep you away from discovering the one true God.
Then at that point, I don't think the one true God would. Okay, how do I put this? Like, I'm really confused about like what you're saying.
If multiple deities are able to answer prayers, how do you know which individual deity answered your prayer?
Because I'm just thinking on the benefit of the
Deception?
It's like the psychology behind why another like deity or Satan would answer my prayer. Like you said, to try to throw me off.
But you said earlier too that you don't know the intentions of a higher power.
It's true. That's
so
true.
We don't know their intentions. But so
Well,
how do you know that you're not being deceived then? If we can't know their intentions, because it's not like even different question. So let's say this friend, the one that had the hearing problem,
right?
You haven't talked to them in a while. What if you met them up again and they said, hey, like when we were kids, I was just playing around. Like I never really had a hearing problem. Would that change your
sure, his mom would be pissed.
Yeah, I'm sure. But would that change your percentage of confidence in your God belief? Like, would that take you from a 99 to a 98?
Possibly. Probably, maybe not. Because we're dealing with the what if factor right now, and so because it would have been just one instance, and then it would just be something. Man, that's a tough question because it is a what if.
I just think just to kind of wrap it up,
it would make me question. It would question more. Like I said, I still question. Like I'll get new information and I'll be like, okay, let's research the new information. Let's figure out what's going on here. Does it make sense this way? Does it make sense that way?
Because I think one of the hardest things for me. So I grew up as a Catholic, like
right.
I was a practicing Christian for 20 plus years of my life. I went to a non-denominational Christian high school where I interacted with Methodists, Protestants of all kinds of different places. Right. Moved to Colorado. And, when moving back from Colorado to Georgia, after having kind of a deconversion or realization, one of the hardest things for me to get away from or find a crutch for was prayer. Because I think that we instinctively, at least in my opinion, in my experience and experience of other Christians that I've talked with, is that's kind of a coping mechanism. So, there were times when I was in New Mexico doing a hiking trip where I'm 10 days into a hiking trip, one where you bring like food and water with you kind of hiking, especially as a younger adult, at 18, that experience for me at the time was very treacherous. You feel like you're going to die sometimes because, you're in the middle of the woods, there's bears and other stuff. And, your mind runs rampant with those things. So I would pray about it. And that prayer would bring me calming. It was always better to think that there was something bigger out there to take care of me. Something better out there, things like that. It's an easier thing to live with.
Okay, but that's a little different than the prayers I'm talking about, though.
Sure, I'm aware, but there's more to this. You being able to pray for an individual action to happen at a 95% accuracy would mean that you could use prayer at almost any given time to get a sign of any kind. Like, you could pray right now and, something could happen in my area or whatever. Those things would be signs. If nothing happens, you don't take that as a negative. It's a win-win. If you don't get what you want, like, what is the reasoning there? Well, might be other suffering or whatever. Otherwise, if prayer was that reliable, then we would be
like, and I know what you guys are trying to get at. I
I'm just trying to get to the reason why you believe, and it seems to be prayer is the number one reason that you believe. But I just don't think that you have good examples of
Right.
a way
right.
to demonstrate that prayer is reliable. Because if it was reliable, like this is the same thing that gets me up.
Prayer is only the fourth and last reason, I believe. Like I said, I've looked at the science. I figured I looked at it both ways, and it made sense both ways. So it's a 50-50 shot. Looked at it mathematically. I looked at it philosophically. I had that philosophical opinion.
Well, I saw
mean,
your
could research-
mathematics, but I think you're using a confirmation bias involved in that mathematics. So to say that,
Very
like,
possible I'm doing that. Yeah.
What are the chances that this bird's going to fly into this room, like, and do this? Like, that's not exactly a sound equation and able to say, it's not two possibilities. There are millions of possibilities involved in that. So there's actually infinite number of possibilities involved in that. So it's not something until we have full knowledge of. So rather than saying circumstantially, this has to be prayer, we would want to have knowledge. We want to know that it's prayer. And the same thing with people that pray for healings and pray for all this other stuff. If it was that reliable, that's what we would be doing in hospitals. Like, that's what we'd be doing to heal people. But it doesn't work that way. And I think that you, in solving your own problems in a lot of way, but you're just giving credit, the other to a deity, which you've chosen. But you don't have a strong knowledge of that deity. It's just a belief. And I want you to go from belief to knowledge.
How would you do that?
So, like, for example, I believe that aliens exist, but I don't have knowledge that aliens exist. In order for me to have knowledge that aliens exist, you would
have to see an alien.
Not necessarily, but we would need to have some sort of compelling evidence that would move me from believing in aliens to knowing aliens exist. And right now you believe that this God exists, but how do we get to know that God exists? And how do you get me to know that God exists? That's kind of that's the golden ticket, so to speak. And that's one of the things, but I mean, it's not a unique case. Like, this happens quite
obviously.
frequently.
Yeah.
But like, so for example, let's take, I've had the same story. Let's say there are Hindus. Like, what if someone were to tell you, hey, my buddy had a hearing problem. I prayed to Vishnu and Vishnu healed my friend's ear. What would you say to that person?
Good for Vishnu. Did he do it for free? Did you have to sacrifice something?
No,
like,
just
even like deeply in the Hindu religion, like I don't know.
But what if they did everything you did?
I did watch something on it, and like a lot of Hindus do believe that there is a greater power above all the gods that they worship. They just kind of pick a smaller one.
So what if they prayed to one of their gods and the child had his ear healed in the same way that you prayed?
Then he would have had his ear healed in the same way I prayed. Like I said,
that's their God doing the work.
Yeah. Like I said, most of my faith is that the God I worship is above the other gods.
Sure.
I believe that he's there and he does answer, but most of what I can't prove and what I believe is that he's above the other ones.
Sure.
So I do think there are other, be consciousnesses with the ability to manipulate energy to a certain extent, and they take the form of good and bad, however they deal with it. But my faith is that the one that I worship has the greater ability to manipulate energy than the rest.
But how could you get to knowledge to know that your God is the one that's above all the rest?
Dying.
So, but there's no other way to know?
There's really, because you can't prove a person exists. You can't. God is. Geez, how do I put this? It's mostly all about like experience, because you can't really prove an experience unless you see the experience. Like I was saying earlier, you can't prove the existence of a rainbow to a blind person. You can go through all the science of it, how light moves, but unless they see that rainbow, they would just have to take it as faith that there's a rainbow there, when I believe that I am seeing a rainbow, kind of deal.
Yes,
What-
rainbows.
Why am I on the
I like analogies, and that's probably the best analogy I have for it. So, like I said, so basically, my beliefs come down to this: it makes sense scientifically both ways, whether it happened by accident or whether it happened by a deity. I'm putting my faith that the deity that I believe in is above the other deities because it's most beneficial for me. I guess we'll
I mean,
put
I
it that
believe
way.
that 100%.
Logically speaking, it's more beneficial for me than any other belief.
Then it's not a truth thing. You're not seeking truth. You're just seeking a confirmation bias. If it's
Maybe,
most
yeah.
beneficial to you, then you're seeking a confirmation bias. You have something to lose.
I have nothing to lose.
It's the most beneficial for you, and then it gains you benefits in your mind. So then there are benefits to lose.
Yes.
So then
Yes,
reconfirming it is a confirmation bias. You have something to lose, therefore you should confirm it. Same thing with me when I was a Catholic. Even though Catholicism is corrupt and a terrible organization, it would exile me out of the religion, and my family was all Catholic. My friends and family were all Catholic, so it would be very difficult for me to step away from the Catholic Church because it would effectively make me a black sheep in the family. So if something were to happen positively, I could attribute it to the Catholic God, which is the same God, but I'm going to say Catholic God.
Yeah, right.
And if I had prayers that worked, any of that kind of stuff, I would confirm it. I would say, well, there's that God working in my life. If other things happened, I would ignore that because it did not meet my confirmation bias. It did not help me. So I build a bubble that I sit in for my belief structure. What you have to do is actually look at a broader spectrum to be able to figure out, am I being deceived? Is my mind being corrupted? Am I living in a bubble? Is there something greater that I need to pay attention to? And the only way to do that is to get rid of that confirmation bias and use some sort of empirical evidence, like prayer working. I mean, you can see all the research studies where they do that. So that's the thing. The personal experience, I think, is a bad way to believe in something. Personally,
I get that.
my personal
Right.
experience is a good personal experience.
And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, because being able to kind of sit back and listen to you guys talk and reflecting on, Shawn, what you and I talked about earlier, there's almost an extreme version of Pascal's wager that's happening.
Sure.
But it's almost to a different degree than maybe I think I've heard before, where several times it was, well, it's convenient for me. That belief is convenient for me,
Mm-hmm.
where the Christian faith, as I was taught, and I won't assume that's what everybody else is taught, was it's not about me. I know in Romans it's I die daily, and to live as Christ and to die as gain. Those are all the things that I was taught. But then to look at it as this is what benefits me, and I don't
Right. And I'm flipping back and forth. So I do have two views of the matter. One of them is the logical science, personal me, my view of the world, and then the other one is my belief, what I understand of God, how the world working. So that's what I'm doing, kind of when I flip flop. If I sound, I guess, selfish when I be like, oh, it's just benefit for me and fuck you guys. But
There is a book, though.
that's what I'm doing because like I said, this is my first interview or my first live stream, and I'm nervous, and I'm just kind of flip back and forth, and my thoughts aren't 100% straight.
No, you're fine. I don't have any issues with the way you present yourself. I think you do fine.
Absolutely.
I would say there is a book, though, that I read quite frequently, front to back, several hundred times, probably countless numbers of times. And reading this book is the reason that I'm no longer a Christian. It's the Bible.
What's the Bible? Okay. And what specifically?
And so when you read it cover to cover, you realize, especially if you read it without, as we would say, the God goggles, when you read it as a person externally reading this book, it makes so much illogical sense. That the writing is from people that obviously do not understand how the nature of the world works. The morality described in the Bible is not something I would consider omnipotent God would go. He doesn't
Like,
seem
can
to
you give
train
examples?
time. There's not a lot of evidence outside the Bible to support the Bible, especially the supernatural acts of the Bible and the errors and just the way that the Bible came to be. You know, when you start reading about how biblical scholars translate Bibles, how biblical scholars decide what words go in this book, and then the groups of men that had meetings about deciding what goes in the book, that's where my problem comes in lie. So I don't think that anybody could tell you, if you have a personal experience and you believe that there is a God, that you're wrong. Like, I don't think there's any way to say that. But I can definitely say that, like, the Bible has been demonstrably demonstrated to be incorrect in many ways. Now, Christians, of course, don't accept that, but I just
Like,
think it's
can you give me an example?
like several verses, books that
Can I
have
jump
been
in, Jeff?
added, books that have been burned, child sacrifice, boiling of children, you know, justifications for slavery, the fact that we have absolutely no surviving gospels, original of the 4 gospels, telling me that a guy can kill 800 people in a day with a single spear. People living to be 900 years old, talking animals, rain doesn't return to the sky before the flood. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Shawn, who wrote the Gospels?
Like the disciples, is that what you mean?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah. Who wrote the Gospels? The synopsis. I can't say it right now. Thank you. Synoptic Gospels. Who? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Who wrote those books?
The answer is we don't know. The answer is we don't have the originals. So when I can say for myself, because I can make myself look dumb. I just assumed that after Jesus died on the cross, this just was here. We had it. It was done. Like, we had a Bible, and that's what was given to us after Jesus, died. But when you start reading books like Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman, or you start reading some of the arguments against the scripture, and you start realizing there's not a whole lot to back it up. Not a lot at all. Like, there's very little to back up Jesus's existence, nonetheless, his resurrection. So it's very difficult for me to take this.
Is there not like accounts of it? Like, I thought
the only account of Jesus's resurrection is contained in this book. I
thought there was also Roman documents of soldiers. Sorry.
Hold on. So, Shawn, who do you believe wrote the Gospels?
The disciples. I thought they were letters that the disciples wrote to each
church. That's like Corinthians, Timothy. Those are
Romans. Like, they wrote them to those places as, a way to be better, kind of deal.
So here's what I'll help you start. Because I do believe in our TikTok conversation, our email exchanges, and listening to you tonight, that you have no problem studying and looking for truth. I don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any reason to believe that you won't do that. So here I'm going to give the same challenge that I indirectly received, and it was a game changer for me. Is, first and foremost, you have to realize that the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Like that, those are not the people that read that book. Or I'm sorry.
Are you talking about the accounts of Jesus? I'm talking about those specifically, or
the Tacitus and Josephus, but they're only accounting that they heard other people talk about it.
Right. Okay, so I did know that. I was aware that the disciples didn't write that.
We don't get writings about Jesus until about 90 years after his death.
Right.
Which is just really weird to me. If you read the story where, the temple's ripped, there's bodies coming out of the ground, there's darkness in the sky. Like, nobody wrote about this. Like, nobody wrote about the sky going dark. The Aztecs and Mayans had extremely accurate calendars on the other side of the world for these kinds of events. You had people in the Egyptians and things like that had extremely accurate sky calendars. And nobody got the word that there was a strange darkness, in the middle of a non-eclipse period. It's just abnormal. And when you look at the resurrection itself, we have 3 different accounts, and they don't even agree with each other. So as a man that likes analogies, I'll give you an analogy and then that's it. So if I told you that, he's over here. If I told you that Oz just got back before this show, he went to a convenience store and he bought a loaf of bread and came home. Like, that would be a pretty believable story. But if I told you that Oz went to the store to get a loaf of bread and on the way he was abducted by aliens, would you believe that he got bread? Like,
Would I
now
believe
the
that
whole
he got
story
bread?
is in question. Like, the whole story, like, we don't know, the whole story is in question. So when you look at the supernatural claims of Jesus and the resurrection story, I need a lot of evidence to prove these claims, and all we have is the accounts in the Bible. Right. So it's weird to me that God would give us Jesus, which is himself, sacrifice him, do this huge production, and then have nobody write about it. It's just
I've heard it other ways. I've watched videos of like Christian scholars saying that we do have like countless accounts in Greek and stuff was written down a lot. Copies. So we have copies. I heard there was a lot, like what I've looked into.
Yeah.
And I've seen it on both sides. I've seen atheists like, oh, we have nothing, and then on the other side, Christians are like, oh, well, this is actually copies, and there are a lot of copies, and they've all had to been verified copies, and there's pretty much no way this could be changed like this and stuff. So I've seen it both ways, and so as far as that, I like Bart
Ehrman books because he's a doctor of biblical studies at Chapel Hill in South Carolina, and he went to Moody Bible School as a Christian.
Okay,
wanted to study the Bible and wanted to be a biblical scholar, and ended up being an atheist along the way. However, he spent time learning Greek, Sumerian languages, Aramaic. He spent time in the Middle East actually researching these artifacts. He can read the actual documents. He has been given access to that through his studies. And even he, who was a believer and wanted to believe, discovered that we don't really have a whole lot of evidence. What we have is copies. We don't have any originals. There are no original documents that account Jesus's existence whatsoever. And that's just baffling to me that God would allow that to happen. That he can, do these things in your life, but not give me the single minor thing that I need to believe, which is just the original documents. It's just, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense unless it didn't happen. Like, that makes more sense now to me, because otherwise, why would God actively remove the evidence? Unless he's a dick. Maybe he's a dick. That's also possible. I don't know. But
maybe not a dick, but I think he likes to play. I think he likes to have fun.
He might. So that's why, or to test me or whatever that may be.
Right. And maybe this is my Christian bubble goggles, like, because you guys base your belief on you absolutely need to have proof. You need to have all this confirmation. I've basically accepted that until I die, I won't receive proof. There's pretty much no possible way, like what you said, unless God came down, shook my hand, be like, hello, sir. I won't be able to receive it. It's going to be impossible for anyone to receive proof. So that's where my logical brain flips over. Like, okay, so what's my best option here? Do I believe in nothing and receive nothing either way, or do I believe in something and I keep forgetting the word, something bias, acts up and it works
Chase in the comments where he says that there's also found in Africa about the darkness. I don't know about this account, but you're telling me you have a single account about an entire area going dark. Like, it doesn't, there should be overwhelming evidence about this. There should have been no contest after he died where bodies are coming out of the ground. There's darkness. There should have been
which account are we talking about?
Jesus Christ's resurrection. He's talking about the sky fell dark.
Yeah, isn't it funny? Real quick, and I'm gonna bring it back to the gospel, so I can give Shawn the same challenge, and then I'll shut up.
Yeah, you got to wrap. We got like 5 minutes here. We got to wrap.
And, I came in and talking. You keep talking.
Well, hold on one thing before you get going.
Shut up. So first thing, just notice, Shawn, that like these world forming, world changing, humanity impacting moments usually happen biblically. I think I need to keep studying this, but almost always happen with one person. So there's no evidence, there's no witnesses, there's anything. So the creation of the earth, there's only one person there. So nobody knows what happens, but yet the Bible claims to know how everything happened, and Christians cling on to that. I think that's crazy talk. Then the 10 Commandments. There's one guy that goes up on one mountain, gets these 10 Commandments, comes down. There's no witnesses. Nobody knows what happened. There's no documentation other than what he wrote on the tablets or stones or whatever. Even the we talk about the resurrection. The only thing that was witnessed according to the Old Testament was a resurrected Christ. Nobody actually saw a resurrection. Period. There's no witnesses for a resurrection. The only person that would have witnessed a resurrection would have been Jesus Christ. So he would have been the only one to say that. There's no evidence, because the 500 witnesses, the disciples, the two Marys, they would have been witnesses to a resurrected Christ. So we don't know.
So you're like giving the example, like if they did witness a body, it wouldn't have been the same person in the Jesus suit.
Well, Mary, no, because Mary in the garden looked like, supposedly, according to the gospel, Mary was in the garden with Jesus. She didn't even recognize. She was mistaken, thought he was one of the gardeners.
Right.
So it's
logically like, that makes sense. You just saw a man die. You would not, your first mind would not be like, oh, that's Jesus. You'd be like, oh, that's just the gardener here to help out. And that's part of the reason why he kept the holes or whatever.
No.
At least that's what I think.
For me, like if it was my wife, even if she had died and I saw her again, like I had a relationship with her, I knew her, I'd be like, oh my, that's Tia. That's my wife. Like I would know that face. I would know exactly who it was, right? But my point is there's only one person that would have actually known if oxygen went in lungs and a heart started pumping blood again. Like there would only be one person that had that account. Just like the Apostle Paul, the road to Damascus, there's no witnesses. It was just like Paul had this miraculous experience and we just take it on his word. There's no evidence. There's no reason to believe it. So that's why I said all that. Now, what I was trying to drive down to earlier was the Gospels. This is what I want to challenge you to do once we're done here tonight.
Okay.
Is go take the Gospels and read them horizontally, not diagonally. So what I mean by that is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So take Matthew chapter 1, Mark, Luke, John, and read them a verse or a chapter at a time together. Not just back to back to back, and compare the stories, because you will find that there are many discrepancies. There are many things that, and actually some of the studies I've been doing lately, I'm at the point now where I believe it was the book of John. It was the book of John. A lot of current Bible scholars that are not Christians, because the Christian Bible scholars, they have to take like a what's the word I want? They basically have to tell the university, like, this is always going to be my belief. I'm always going to defend Christianity no matter what. That they're invested there. So there's already bias there.
Right.
But they're now coming to find out that John, most of the original people that put the Bible together didn't even want John included. They didn't want John in there as one of the Gospels. So you start reading it through, in which we all know John has the go-to scripture for Christians: for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, blah, 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 blah. So my challenge to you is to take those Gospels and read them that way. That way you can see the discrepancies, and especially with the story of the resurrection, because I don't think any of them get it right. If it was true, they're all confused on what they're saying and what they're trying to portray.
Right, and they're different accounts, so so they're bound to have heard or witnessed different things. So I would understand there's discrepancies.
Well, and real quick, there's a guy named Brian here, and I have no idea who he is. First time I've seen his name. Says he's a Christian Bible scholar, and that's not true. We don't have to make any sort of pledge. Maybe you don't, but I have spoken to several that do.
I'm also a Bible scholar, and I did have to take that pledge. We're on equal footing, Brian. Give us your real name right now. We have to substantiate this claim.
Yeah, but that was my challenge. Was to do that without getting all the weeds. It's very easy for each person to sit down and if you do that, go through that text. If you can go through that and you still hold the current belief, then I'll shake your hand, Shawn, and say good for you.
And it might be my my Christian bubble, like you said, talking about like for me, the Bible, like, I pay attention more to the message than anything else in it. And, the message for me is love show sometimes. Oh, I'm just getting these pop-ups. The message to me is, it's believable and it's pretty solid throughout the Bible, I would say. So, whether they happen specifically the way the Bible said or not, like, that's debatable, but like, and I'll read them diagonally and I'll get back to you on that. I can't do it now because I gotta go to bed soon, wake up real early for a flight and stuff like that, but I'll email you on what I think afterwards. But for me, the Bible is more about the teachings than the stories, I guess. Like, the first half of it is, to me, that's a history book. You're just reading a history book. Like, this is how it happened. And then the second half is like, this is how you should behave, kind of deal, more than anything else.
But have you investigated like how you should behave? Like reading those passages and reading what they justify?
Most of it's just non-selfish, love each other.
No.
God. Okay, tell me what it is then.
I mean, it depends. One easy example is 1 Timothy chapter 2. I would go directly there and read the first few, like first few verses there, which tells women what their place is in the church.
Right.
To make babies.
Does it say that? Like I said, I haven't actually read the second half yet.
1 Timothy 2:11-14 is, I shall not permit a woman to speak, but to learn in all silence. She is to be submissive, yada, yada, yada. It was Adam that sinned it was Eve that sinned and not Adam. She is the one that transgressed, and she will be punished through childbearing. I'm paraphrasing, obviously pretty heavy, but.
Right. And real quick, while Shawn's reading. So, Ian, thank you for your super chat. I know Grumps dropped one earlier. Dean Meadows, thank you for yours. And if you want to come on, email me, austin@tart.live.
It was 1 Timothy what?
Chapter 2, 11-14.
We'll get you on faux show. And I don't think I missed the other super chats. But yeah, you guys get like one, maybe two more questions in, and we'll wrap it up. Unless some other questions pop up.
I think you have a unique opportunity right now, Shawn, to read that document or read that passage with a blank slate. If you've never read it before, it's fantastic because you can read it right now and come up with your own opinions about it. I think a lot of people are already told like the justifications for these things before they actually read it. And they already know this argument in their head. They have a wall already built because you do seem to be pretty open-minded and genuinely curious about the faith. So, and then any Bart Ehrman book, you let Oz know, I will send you a collection of Bart Ehrman books if you like to read about how the Bible came to be. And most theists.
But I'm an audiobook. I'd read them faster.
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually, I only do audiobooks because I'm heavily dyslexic.
Jeff can't read.
Well, you can't read. I can read, but I just don't like to. So he has most theists and atheists agree that he has very good factual books. Like they're very factual about things. He's not really giving an opinion so much as he's just laying out the evidence.
Right. Yeah. Ehrman's a beast. Love stuff. I've been getting more and more into his writings, his videos.
His blog is really good.
And here's another one. And this dude's under the radar, and he's a friend of the channel.
Is it this guy?
If you want some other, well, no, that's the second one I was going to go to when it comes to slavery, because that came up. The first one is here on YouTube. If you want to write this down or whatever, Dragons in Genesis. Jason Foe is his name. Dude's a beast. Very much on the same level of thinking, not content, but thinking as Bart Ehrman. But then if you really want to get into Old Testament text, and we're talking about Greek and Hebrew and I can never say it right. Aramaic. One time. That one. Yeah, that one. Dr. Josh Bowen is a fucking beast. Go check him out. Digital Hammurabi. Go check him out. He's a fucking beast. And he has tons of good literature there available. So there's two there that you can get hooked up with. But I do, before we close, because I did tell Shawn that we would have fun tonight and not all be serious. So Shawn, all the God stuff, all the religious stuff, all that's thrown out the window for a second. Okay, we're done. They're done. Throw it out. Shawn, who's your favorite, either comedian or comic actor, comedic actor?
My favorite comedian would probably be either Dave Chappelle or John Mulaney, or what's his name? You might know, like his bit is The Machine. He's funny too.
The Machine.
Like I Am the Machine. It's I think it's Bert, some sort of weird last name. I'm sure people in the chat know the guy whose comedy bit is I Am the Machine. He went to Russia.
Yeah. Bert Chris. Chase has got you. It must be a Christian thing. Kirchner.
He's hilarious.
Why has he not got a shirt on?
He doesn't wear a shirt. That's just his thing.
And how about you, Jeff?
Jerry Seinfeld.
God, that was boring as hell.
And you've obviously never been to a Jerry Seinfeld event. Dimitri Martin was another really good comedian that I've seen.
Hey, keep talking. I'm gonna get my nail clippers out while you talk. Oh, look at that troll face. So cute. Chris Farley is the best ever.
Aren't you younger than me?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I am.
Chris Farley, I agree. Chris Farley is funny.
Chris Farley.
I was never privileged to see him in live. So I thought we were doing like people that we've
seen his work. So
no, not live, Jeff. Just overall, like your favorite either comedians live or on video, or your favorite comedic movie actors.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Thanks. That changed everything. Chris Farley, and then who was I going to say? Ron White. I fucking love Ron White.
Oh, get the hell out of here. We're closing the show. You're
don't give a fuck about nobody. You're fucking.
I've never heard of him, so
you don't worry. You're not missing anything. You're just hearing a drunk guy on stage ramble about his life.
Oh, it's awesome. And when he talks shit about
he
Dr.
makes dad
Phil,
jokes.
When he talks shit about Dr. Phil, it's amazing. It's amazing.
This is every Ron White joke ever.
But then,
you know that when the guy did the thing.
Oh, all of a sudden he's gone. That's too bad.
I lost sound. What happened? Oh.
You give the troll controls.
Okay. I was like, what's going on? There's no sound.
But no, I will say, so we'll close. We're a little over time here, but we had a good time. Shawn, you were awesome, man. Thank you. You're a great guest, and I know this was your first official live YouTube interview, feed, all of the above. And even though we don't agree with you and you don't
Right.
agree with us, you were awesome, man. We appreciate it. I think it was a great conversation. Anything you'd like to say or anything before we sign off?
No.
Oh, there's the beast right there. Yeah. Zombie Jesus. And Jeff, great job. Great questions tonight. And I felt like everything flowed really, really well. And for everybody in the chat, y'all are amazing. Even though half the time you're talking about Thanksgiving and getting drunk, but we still appreciate you being here with us. And Shawn, I hope we can do this again, man. I enjoyed it. And for everybody, just know Friday night, we're going to have a gentleman, and I can't say his name properly, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But Friday night, another gentleman,
Aramaic.
Aramaic. He's going to be on with us on Friday, and he has like was it like 300,000 or 400,000 followers on TikTok, something like that. He's a pastor.
If you can get him, why can't you get Bart Ehrman on the show?
Oh, I'm trying everybody. But so he'll be on with us Friday. So if you don't have anything Friday evening, please make sure you're here because that's going to be a great conversation, a great interview. And he is from South Africa. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. So in the meantime, thank you every single person that hung out with us tonight. This was TART Live. We are the Atheist Roundtable. Peace.